I want to bring in NBC's Garrett Haake, who's at the White House. Mark McKinnon was an advisor to President George W. Bush and John McCain, as well as creator of The Circus. And Joyce Vance is a former U.S. attorney, professor at the University of Alabama School of Law, and MSNBC legal analyst. So, Joyce, what is exactly in this order, and what is the practical impact?
Well, this is a very brief order from the judge in Rhode Island saying, look, government, it appears to me based on the evidence that's been put in front of me by the collective states attorneys general, who are the plaintiffs in this action, that you haven't been following my order. That order is a very temporary pause. It's called a TRO that tells the government you must discontinue this blanket freeze on spending. It appears to the judge that the government has not done that, and so the judge is now saying, you have an obligation to comply with my order immediately. You haven't done it. You need to do it now.
I think it's a crazy situation to really stop the freeze that was on the funding, because it was stopped because they want to go through everything line by line to make sure the money was going where it's supposed to, and that they wanted it to go there because stuff was signed and put into place before they got to office. So before this money goes out, we can never get it back again. Let's go through everything line by line and make sure that this is money we want going out.
Right, and that side makes perfect sense. But this judge is stepping out there. Basically saying, hey, I respect your power, but respect my authority.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
And Garrett, let me read to you directly from the order, which I just got my hands on as well as Joyce did. It says, persons who make private determinations of the law and refuse to obey an order generally risk criminal contempt, even if the order is ultimately ruled incorrect. Of course,
it's like a Democrat. Just a couple of lines is giving me Democrat vibes. He's on the Democrat side is what it sounds like.
Criminal contempt, even if the order is ultimately ruled incorrect. Of course, Donald Trump has avoided any real penalties, even when he has been convicted in the past. And what he's doing, I think it's fair to say, is an absolute cornerstone of what he intended to do from day one when he got into office.
Yeah, Chris, I think that's exactly right. President Trump and his team had long expressed throughout the campaign that they were going to test the bounds of executive authority, and they want to do so in this case as well. Both he and Vice President Vance over the weekend made arguments to this effect, that they don't believe that a single district court judge, as this is in the district court in Rhode Island, I believe, specifically, should have this kind of authority, or does have this kind of authority, to make these kind of blanket statements about federal policy nationally, and they intend to challenge or push back against any specific judge making that order. This goes back to something J.D. Vance has talked about, sort of a throwback to Andrew Jackson, historically saying, you know, I've seen Justice Marshall's, I believe it's Justice Marshall's order, now let him enforce it. They believe the courts don't have the authority or the ability to hold their feet to the fire in this case, and they are spoiling for a fight. Democrats have looked at this and see a potential constitutional crisis on the horizon. But for now, I'll be very curious to see, and we have no reaction yet, I should be clear, from the Trump White House, given that this news has just broken in the last few minutes, how far they want to take this challenge, either up the ladder with the courts or by simply continuing to not comply.
Well, I like the fact that what Trump was doing. Yo, we don't care what y'all saying. We're going to do what we want. We out here. You know what I'm saying?
That's what it feels like.
We're challenging everything. We're just trying to get stuff done the way that we want to get it done. We don't think y'all even had that type of power, so we're not respecting it, because the way you're interpreting the law, the way we're interpreting the law is two different things. We're going to do it our way, and we'll just face the consequences later, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds like they're going to push the bar to attempt to raise the bar.
Yeah, that's what you want to do. You want somebody that's out here fighting for the people, not just saying, oh, the judge said that, I'm going to go for it. Yeah, I heard what you said, but I don't think you're right, and we're going to fight to see if you're right or wrong at the end of the day.
Well, that's a key question, isn't it, Joyce, in terms of preserving the Constitution and recognizing that there are branches of government, and that's the democracy that we live in. How big is this moment potentially for a judge to say, I have told you what needs to be done. You need to do it.
I don't know who this judge thinks that he's playing with, but you're not making smart moves at all. You're not playing with a small guy. You're playing with the big guy. If you're seeing presidents do what this man tell them to do because they want the backlash from it, what makes you think you want the backlash from it?
He's saying from where I stand,
Yeah.
I ordered you to do this.
Yeah.
So that's what needs to be done. This is one of them crazy situations where they're really flexing their power right now.
I hope the judge is everything that he think he is.
Oh yeah,
because they're gonna hold your feet to the fire. Also, it's not gonna be a one-way street.
What needs to be done? You need to do it.
Yeah, it's shocking that a federal judge would have to admonish the government like that. And there are two paths forward here, and one is very dramatic and perhaps potentially dangerous to democracy. The other is normal and realistic. The normal, realistic path is to appeal the judge's order, to try to get a higher court to reverse.
That's exactly what you
Although in reality, this is a very short-term order, because on February 21st, this judge will hold what's called a hearing into the preliminary injunction and let both parties put on evidence and decide what to do moving forward. The judge has also told the government that it's free to come back to him if they need a specific exemption from this order in order to pursue legitimate allegations of fraud and waste. This order tells the government it's unconstitutional to have a blanket freeze on spending that Congress has authorized. But if something specific comes up, come back to me. So that's the rule of law approach, the approach that we would expect to see the administration take. The lawless path is the path that we've increasingly seen the current vice president reference, this notion that you just don't have to obey orders from courts that you don't like. That's obviously in violation of the oath that members of Congress, along with members of the executive branch, take to uphold the Constitution. And if that's the path that the Trump administration chooses, then we really would be at a very serious moment for democracy.
I don't think it's the way that she's making it paint. They said it earlier. He don't think that they have the power to make that decision, that they are making that decision. We see it in every day with people with power abuse that power, overstep that power, do stuff that they wasn't supposed to do. I think the next thing they're going to do is take it to a higher court. That's the way it's set up.
That's
and it's
what's
set
going
up like
on.
that for a reason. There's nobody that got say so over all domain. Okay, I don't like your decision. I'm gonna take it up somewhere else. Or if I don't like their decision, I'm gonna take it somewhere else. I'm gonna keep taking it as far as I can take it, and hopefully I'll get the answer that I want.
And Mark, I want to read another part of the order. Here's what it says. The defendants now plead that they are just trying to root out fraud.
Yeah.
But the freezes, in effect now, were a result of the broad categorical order, not a specific finding of possible fraud. And in any case, as we've often seen before, let's go back to the 2020 election was stolen.
So you're saying because of the categorical order? So the only reason why this number looked big is because how it was listed?
Yeah.
So it just jumped out? It's a bigger number than everything else on the sheet. What's going on here?
Yeah.
As opposed to it really not making any sense that this money was going there?
Yeah, it's like, okay, the money could have already been allotted to go out with Congress. But if he felt like this was done by administration before me, I'm now in the White House, I don't think this money should go out. I don't think it never should have went out. I think he should have the right, because he's in office now, to make that decision and shouldn't have to do stuff based upon what the last administration thought was cool. And we've seen they just been wasting money and spending on all type of crazy stuff anyway. So I can see why he would want to put a freeze on it.
Donald Trump has long said, well, there's all this fraud and we're going to show you the proof for it. And then there never is any proof.
Where have you been? Proof is coming out every day. Every day we got a new story about proof of mishandling funds going in places that it should not have
go.
Went to.
We're still waiting for him to say why the USAID, for example, is a corrupt organization, or why some of the people may have been taking kickbacks. Fraud, the possibility of trying to prove fraud. How important is that? Just that statement to you in that ruling by the judge?
Well, it's fundamental, and this.
And they let the guy in front of the White House speak. His facial expression is saying a lot.
It's saying everything he's thinking.
I'm not buying nothing that you over there selling, lady.
He's flipping his head. Like,
yeah. I want to see him speak so bad.
This gets to the bottom line, which is the Republicans have caught the car now, and government's in their control, and what happens will be on their watch, and they will be accountable. But it's clear that Trump is doing what he said he would do during the campaign. He's just taking a wrecking ball to the government, and he is stretching the limits of executive authority to their absolute limit, including Congress and including the judiciary. And I think what's going to be interesting, and I kind of flip it over to Joyce on this question, is ultimately what happens if Trump just says, screw it, sue me, do whatever you want, find me in contempt.
Yeah.
I think, which is where I think they'll go. They'll just say, we don't.
If anybody would say that, Trump would say that. Screw you, I'm doing what I want. Do what you have to. You already hit me with 34 felonies, and I'm still out here, the president, doing what I want.
Yeah.
Facts.
Find me in contempt. I think, which is where I think they'll go. They'll just say, we don't care. The courts can say whatever they want.
Yeah.
We're going to continue to do what we want to do.
Facts.
Joyce, what in the end? What's the hammer here in the end?
Yeah. What's the hammer?
Question.
I mean, isn't that the problem, right? There's this famous statement about let the courts enforce it. The Supreme Court does not have an army that enforces its decisions. Instead, we have an American tradition of judicial review with the Supreme Court as the ultimate arbiter of these legal issues, including the power of the presidency. And so that said, unless the Congress suddenly grows a little bit more of a spine than we've seen them willing to engage with most recently, because really the limit we now learn on presidential power is the power of impeachment, a political power, which is probably not going to be exercised here, we would be in a real moment of crisis. If this president...
Definitely not a crisis. I can tell you exactly how it's going to go based off our answer. That's all you could do, which it sounds like nothing.
Nothing at all.
Why would we not continue to do what he wants to do if you really have no power or no army to do anything about it?
See, this is where it starts getting scary right now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you're used to things like this. The everything's in place for a reason.
Yeah.
But if the things that are in place are not
getting us to where we
want to get to,
we got to change something.
then things are going to change, and they look like they're changing right now.
Yeah, let's take a record ball
right in front of us.
Facts. What Trump is doing, man, I just call it one word: gangster. Facts.
Going to be exercised here, we would be in a real moment of crisis if this president decided he could ignore court orders and do whatever he wanted to do. Even Richard Nixon didn't do that, ultimately turning over the White House tapes when the Supreme Court ordered him to do that.
And even if Garrett...
His name is Nixon. His name is Trump. He's not supposed to do everything that he would do, and he's not going to do everything that
they're all different. The policies are different. The time is different. The world is different.
We have never seen a president like Trump, so it don't even make sense that you compare him to other presidents that came before him, because he's completely different.
Yeah, he's completely different.
White House tapes when the Supreme Court ordered him to do that.
I'm right here. I'm talking.
And even if Garrett, the president,
Look at him.
said,
He's
okay, we're going to
trying to
comply
get
with
word
this
in.
order for the next 11 days. The defendants, this is again reading from the document, the defendants must immediately take every step necessary to effectuate the TRO, including clearing any administration, operation, or technical hurdles to implementation. One of the questions raised by folks who were concerned about this in the first place was, it's easy, for example, to lock everybody out of the building and say you don't come into work anymore. It's another thing to get things back up and running, and the latter often takes longer than the former, right? So where does that leave things?
Look, that's exactly,
by the way, thousands of federal employees.
That's exactly right. And in some cases, it may not even be technically feasible to comply with the judge's order. If you've already put people on administrative leave who, know how to pay out certain grants or to make sure that the lights are on at certain agencies, whether it be USAID or the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau today, where workers were told not to come into the office, it may not be as simple as saying, okay, folks down the hall in cubicle A, you can send that check out now. Those people are not at work, or perhaps have already decided they're not coming back. This order may not be enforceable in that way. And I want to make the point.
That's a great point. I didn't even think about. The people are not even there to get these payments to go out. What do you want us to do? There's no one here to do the job that you want to do. So I'm just going to keep things going the way we think they should be going.
Yeah, that's all you can do at that point.
And they probably seen the long game and already got rid of the people in case this happened. There's no one here to even do what you say.
There's no one here to even ask what's going on or what happened.
We already got rid of them.
Since Joyce raised impeachment on the right, including from Elon Musk, there has been chatter that impeachment could go the other way, too. It is possible to impeach federal judges. And so could you see a scenario?
That's what I've been saying. I read body language. I was like, I can't wait for this guy to talk.
Yeah, he was itching.
Yeah.
I seen him put his hand up like,
Yeah.
I'm over here.
Yeah, and look at her face when he said that.
Her face totally switched.
But it's like this. Like, yeah, it go both ways. Like I said, this judge, they're going to hold this judge's feet to the fire. I hope he's everything that he think he is, because it's definitely going to come his way if he's really trying to keep this order in place. I got 2 words from him. Good luck.
Other way, too, it is possible to impeach federal judges.
Right.
And so could you see a scenario in which this Republican-controlled Congress goes entirely the other direction and says they agree that the judge's orders are unlawful here? They back up Trump in this showdown and decide to try to move to impeach a federal judge for issuing an order that they believe is inappropriate. I don't think you can cross that possibility entirely off the list either.
Damn.
Well, Joyce,
I love how they playing out here. Look at his face.
It's horrible. It's horrible out here.
We're just going to put that in the atmosphere. He might be up out of a job.
This can go both ways.
Yeah.
I don't think you can cross that possibility entirely off the list either.
Well, Joyce, I have to ask that of you, doing the job that you do and working with the people you've worked with throughout your career, because as I was talking about this, as I'm running out of the newsroom and coming out to set, I said to someone who was not involved in news production what was happening, and they said, uh-oh, for that judge. Could you see a scenario where judges, I mean, look, already we know that a number of people who have any number of jobs in the federal government are nervous about being seen as bucking what this administration wants. But what would that mean if they started looking seriously at impeachment of judges who rule against what the administration wants them to do?
Gangster.
It's damn near absolute
So
power.
already we've seen that call for impeachment of judges. Elon Musk tweeted, I think, yesterday that every year the bottom performing 1% of judges should be fired in order to do away with corruption.
Yeah.
The reality is, under our Constitution, which cannot be altered at the whims of a single individual, federal judges get life tenure. And they get that so they can set aside the party affiliation that helped them get the job in the first place. We saw federal judges do that both.
We think all these people that got lifetime jobs, all I need to be revisited. You know what I'm saying? Because nothing is getting done because you feel like I have a lifetime job. Why do I need to do my job to the best of the ability? I always have a job. And that's a lot of stuff Trump said that he want to look into and start repealing some of that stuff, because it doesn't make sense if somebody got these lifetime jobs and they really not doing nothing to keep this lifetime job
that helped them get the job in the first place. We saw federal judges do that.
Well, it's almost like, from what she's saying, like to lose their party affiliation. I get that.
Yeah.
Because in this position, you're not supposed to be dedicated to the party. You're supposed to be dedicated to the whole.
Mhm.
You know.
How often does that really happen?
But that's what I was about to
Like, let's be
say.
real.
How often does that actually happen?
Slim to none.
You are who you are.
Yeah, it's slim to none. Before you even got into the judge, 9 times out of 10, you already had a party that you was connected to.
Yeah,
You had a side that you was already on.
absolutely.
Facts.
And you had people who were in cahoots with you.
Yeah, that's a fact. We all know this goes on.
Republicans and Democrats in the wake of the 2020 election, when they bravely rejected the allegations of fraud that were unsupported by any evidence. Now we have this morning this decision, this order that's issued by the chief judge in Rhode Island, an Obama appointee, which I'm sure we will hear more about today.
There you go. The one that's trying to stop it is an Obama appointee.
Yeah.
Enough said. This is why you're trying to do what you're trying to do.
So that's the total opposite of what she was just saying.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Where, the judges don't play the party lines.
Yeah.
Well, there goes that statement.
If they didn't, you wouldn't connect his name to
You
Obama.
wouldn't have connected the
And then
dots. Exactly.
when you did, it told me everything that I needed to know. And now we see why this is going this way. And we see why they might just say, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. And we're going to now we're moving on you because we know who your loyalty is with.
Mm-hmm.
Chief judge in Rhode Island, an Obama appointee, which I'm sure we will hear more about today, but he very bravely, after seeing the criticism of the judge in New York over the weekend who had entered the temporary restraining order in a different case, he very bravely leads with this citation to case law that says, if a court issues an order, you, the parties, must comply with it immediately, even if it's ultimately reversed on appeal. So this is clearly a judge whose spine is stiffened. This is not a judge who's going to back down. But I think we're right to be concerned that there may be some judges are only human, who may really be worried about the threats that are undoubtedly coming for any judge who rules against this administration. That's why it's so important that the other two branches of government act in concert to say judicial review is a reality.
The other two are Republican ran. So you want the Republican rans to go against Trump? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen at all.
Two branches of government act in concert to say judicial review is a reality of American democracy. It's how we get things done. It's fair. It's right. We don't attack individual judges for their rulings any more than we attack individual prosecutors or FBI agents for the cases that they're assigned to work on. But unfortunately, in Trump 2.0, those sorts of criteria are used to condemn our democratic institutions, and that's a real attack on our form of government.
Not really. I think it's a crazy situation. Definitely a situation I'll keep an eye on.
Gotta keep an eye on this one.
This is a crazy story. It looked like things is heating up, and they look like they're going to continue to heat up. And I wouldn't be surprised if the next couple of days we just hear more and more coming out from this situation.
Well, we're going to hear some more.
But somebody's going to bend and somebody's going to buck, and I can't wait to see who lose this side of the war. Before we get out with the video, if you didn't like, subscribe, or leave a comment, make sure you do that. Until our next video, it's Tremaine Jones.
It's Lamar Wilson.
And we out.